Hello friends. So let's start with Angular, and I've started or have gone to our HTTP, that is Angular site angular.io guide. You first have to type this, and then after clicking this, you have to go to docs. Then after docs, in understanding Angular overview, then we have components. Okay, so we are looking to components lifecycle. And in component lifecycle, you will see that what is component lifecycle. So a component is just a lifecycle that's where Angular instantiates a component class and renders the component view along with its child. So in short, if we see, so a component instance has a life cycle. It has a life cycle that starts when Angular instantiates the component class. Whenever we create a particular component, okay, so Angular instantiates a life cycle of a particular instance of that component, okay, and renders the content view along with its child views. The life cycle continues with change direction as Angular checks to see when data bound properties change. Like when we create a particular component, we have a particular file that is HTML, uh, HTML file, like then we have a CSS, then we have a TS file, and a particular additional CSS script file. Sorry, style file. All right. Okay. So these four files are being included when we create a particular component, right? So when we create a particular component, the life cycle continues with change action. Means whenever we create a particular heading tag, we add a particular new heading tag in our HTML file, or we write a particular CSS code in our CS file, or we add a particular code in TS file, there will be live updation in our Angular project as well, and it can be checked on our browser if it is being done on our HTML. So that's what it's written, that the life cycle continues with change detection. The cycle continues as Angular checks to see when data bound properties change and updates both the view and the component instance as needed. If we change the view, that is the HTML part, there will be an update in our view part also and component instance also. The lifecycle ends when Angular destroys the component instance and removes the rendered template from the DOM. So the lifecycle will gets end if we delete a particular component from our Angular project. Okay. Directives have similar life cycles as Angular creates updates and destroys instances in the code of execution. Component lifecycle, in short, you can say it gets instantiated when we create a particular component in our Angular, and as we go further and we create particular new HTML code, or we write a particular new CSS code in our CSS file, or update something new in our TS file, the live gets updated in our project and we can check it, and we don't have to what you say run uh, multiple times. We just have to run one time, and most of the code gets updated live by live as we go further by the coding part. Right? Your application can use lifecycle hook methods to tap into key events in the lifecycle of a component or directive to initialize new instances. Like there are some lifecycle hook methods to tap into our key events in the lifecycle of a component. So what are they? Like initiate change detection when needed, respond to updates during change detection, and clean up before detection of instances. So for component lifecycle, there are some prerequisites. Like before working with lifecycle hooks, you should have a basic understanding of the following TypeScript programming and an Angular app design fundamentals as described in Angular concept. Angular concept is nothing but it is our introduction to Angular fundamental app design. Like if we go to this page, you can see it is nothing but introduction to Angular concept. So Angular is a platform and framework for building single page client applications using HTML and TypeScript. Angular is written in TypeScript. It implements core and optional functionality as a set of TypeScript libraries that you import into your application. And these are the different concepts related to Angular. The basic concepts, you can say. That is what you should have the knowledge of before going to life cycle. And TypeScript programming is nothing, as I told you, it's like mostly JavaScript programming, but with syntax for types. Okay, so if you see the code, this is nothing but a particular type of what do you say, array, which we create in our JavaScript, but it has a type. Okay, it's our type cons. That's, you can say, property name does not exist on type. This is just some example code. You can try it yourself. Okay, but we don't have to see it. So these two things are being needed if you want to go with the lifecycle on your Angular project. Responding to lifecycle events, responding to events in the lifecycle component are directed by implementing one or more of the lifecycle loop. Now, what are some of the lifecycle loops we can add in our Angular project? Lifecycle loop interfaces in Angular full library. So this is one of the example. You will see that we have a particular TS file, a directive TS file, not a component, a directive TS file. It is a directive. It is a decorator, an Angular decorator that marks class as an Angular directive. Okay, you can define your own directives to attach custom behavior elements in the DOM. So what's the main motto of creating a directive? To define, so you can define your own uh, directives to attach custom behavior to elements. Okay, for custom adding custom behavior to elements in the DOM. Like you can add, we have a directive like selector, the CSS selector that identifies directive and a template and triggers instantiation of the directive. If you see to in an example, and directive has been created with the decorator at the rate directive, and we have a particular selector on which it's on which there has to be some, you can say, changes are to be done. Okay? So this is a directive, and we have added particular directive like selector, that is app peekaboo, which is a particular CSS file. A selector is used for CSS file. Okay. You can see here also. So a CSS selected identifies the select. We have other directives also like imports, outputs. So we can provide this after creating or adding at the rate directive decorator in our CSS file. And other things we have like whenever we create a TS file, this is the particular code you will see. Like you will see an export class peekaboo, that is our class name directive, which implements, which you can say by default implements on init interface. On init is an interface, and one of the inbuilt methods is also being used here. That is ng on init method, which is being initialized or used because we have implemented on init method, on init interface. So if you see on interface, this is a lifecycle loop, nothing but a particular lifecycle that is called after Angular has initialized all data bound properties of the directive. Define an end on it method to handle and initialization tasks. Now this line is more important than the example, that definition of this. Like ng on it, this method is used to handle the additional initialization tasks. And like whenever our Angular gets initialized or executed, the first thing we want to initialize, we can add the things in this inside this method, that is actually on it. So whenever our Angular project gets executed, the first thing, only one time, that is first thing, that we don't have to initialize multiple times, will get initialized or get executed in the first task only. In whenever we create a thing inside ng on it, this is one thing in this, like this dot login. This will get initialized or get executed when our project will get executed. And first thing to get on initialization will be this thing. And this is another method log in which we are taking some variable or a parameter MSG that is of type string, and we are giving this logger. We are setting a particular value of logger as a private you say variable in our parameterized constructor. Okay, so we are setting that particular value using this method into logger, which is a logger source. So this is one of the example you can say. We will see more about this. So these were the component life cycle, and you don't have to implement all of the life cycle, just the ones you need. Okay, life cycle event sequence. So after your application instantiates a component or directive by calling its constructor, Angular calls the hook methods you have implemented at the appropriate point in the lifecycle of that instance. Angular executes hook methods in the following sequence. Use them to perform the following kinds of operations. Okay, so we have some hook methods, that is engine changes, which has a purpose that responds when Angular sets or resets data bound input keys. The method receives a simple changes object of current and previous property values. Like when we saw component life cycle, it was about how a component gets updated or how our output gets updated whenever there is a particular change in our code in HTML file, CSS file, or TS file. Okay, that was our component life cycle, and it gets started whenever when we first created our component. That was our component life cycle. After that, we looked over a particular example, which we also saw a particular new things like at the directive decorator, which is used to give a particular director or direction. In here, we have used a selector, which gives a particular idea or link. You can say URL of our CSS file. This is our the particular you can say code which you will find in our TS. Okay, this is the default code. We have lifecycle event sequence. Like after your application instantiates a component or directive by calling its constructor, Angular calls the hook methods. Hook methods you have implemented at the appropriate point in the lifecycle. Like we also have different methods like ng on changes. Then we have ng on it only, then ng do it. So you can use these methods also to get most of the things done at a particular time. Like ng on changes response when Angular sets or resets bound input properties. The method receives a simple changes object of current and previous property values. So this keeps a particular data of what is the current change in a particular object and what was the previous property values. Okay, this happens frequently. So any operation you perform here impacts performance significantly. So this is one of the things called before ng on in it if the component has bound imports. So you can use this method when you have a particular inputs bounded before ng on it. Okay, and you have to call this method before ng on. So you can use this if you have particular things or you want to if the component has bound input and whenever more data bound input properties changes. Okay, so you can use this method also. If you on it is default, we always use it. Then we have ng do check. What is that detect and act upon changes that Angular can't or won't detect on its own. So sometimes uh, ng do check can be used if you think most of the changes are not detected by Angular. So we can add this method. By default, we have ng on it, which is most of the things, but we do have more methods like ng do check. Okay, so you can use these methods also. Then we ng after content in it. Respond after Angular projects external content into the components view or into the view that the derivative is in. Called once after first ng do. So this can be used and after content in it. This method can be used when we want when respond after Angular projects external content into components view. So after content has been initialized, we can call this method. So what you say, respond up to get executed or respond on something after Angular project's external content into the components view is being. So there are different methods you can find this on this site. Okay, angular.io dash slash guide slash lifecycle hooks, and we have different methods like ng after view init, ng after view check, ng on destroy, lifecycle example set. So we have a particular example. You can download this example and you can see how other things running of a component, or you can check out what is the purpose of the things in a particular component lifecycle. This was component lifecycle, and we have view encapsulation. We have seen sharing data between child, parent directives, and components. Right. This was one of the things we have seen. You can check out the playlist or the videos in our previous lectures. The, the Angular has multiple things to learn. You can start learning by this site, that is angular.io. Okay. Then we have also tutorials, updates, and release. So there are multiple things Angular provides about. You can read out or you can understand this using this site. Okay. For Spring, if you want to see, you have to go to Spring, and here you will find Spring Home. So Spring makes Java simple. By Spring, quick start, we have a quick start guide. What Spring can do, mic- we can make microservices. We can create reactive. We can use a project with cloud. Okay, then we can also create web apps. Serverless can be created. Event driven programs can be created. Batch can be created. Okay, automated tasks. So what Spring can do? These are the things a Spring can do. Level up your Java code. With Spring Boot in your app, just a few lines of code in all you need to start building services like a boss. Okay, this is one of the easiest example you will see. That is, at the Spring Boot application is nothing but a particular decorator. Here, a decorator. This is not called as decorator, but this is called as what you say. Just got confused in Angular and Spring, but this is not a decorator. This is called as a we will see later. Okay, at the rate rest controller, this is one of the class which is this is one of the decorated for now we will use. So whenever we use this type of thing on a class, when we run this particular project, this rest controller will handle the request and response with a particular, you can say, code. Okay, so most of our servers today are all based on Spring Boot. I think the most important thing is that Spring has been just very well made over the years. So let's start with quick start guide. if you see to this Spring Quick Start Guide, what you will build, what you need, start a new Spring project. You can create a Spring project, add your code, and uh, what, what I was looking. Let's go to a quick start. This start only. So endpoint which any browser can connect to. You can even tell it your name and it will respond in more friendly way. Use Spring. So this is one of the site using which it will redirect to this page, and you can create a particular project or initialize your Spring project by using by choosing a particular project of Maven type, the language you want to use. For mostly we use Java only. You can check out the particular latest version of Spring Boot, which is in current. Like here we have 2.2.6. This is the latest version. It's just an example. Then we have the project metadata to give group name that is common. For example, then a particular artifact, a particular name, description, then package name. Package you can do with var also, jar also, but we prefer jar only. Okay, mostly, and you can use the particular version you have in your system of Java. You can add particular dependencies like web dependency, REST API dependency, and there are multiple dependencies you can use using this. Like a certain click on add dependencies, web, or you can search for more of the things. Okay, for security, we have a particular dependency for designing part. We have a particular dependency that is called as timely. Okay, there are multiple dependencies you can use just by searching on this, and you can add it in here, and you can generate your project. Okay, so what we call at the Spring Boot application. This is called an annotation. The REST app, the at the rate REST controller annotation tells Spring that this code describes an endpoint that should be made available over the web. Okay? So what's the use of at the rate REST controller? As I told you that it handles the requests and responses. So that's what written that Spring in Spring. This code describes an endpoint that should be made available over the web. Okay. So what we do on web, we hit a particular request and we get a particular response. That's what the use of or the thing which is being done by at the rate REST controller annotation. The at the rate get mapping hello tells Spring to use our hello method to answer requests that get sent to the to this type of API, or you can say endpoint address. Finally, at the rate request param is telling Spring to expect a name value in the request, but if it's not there, it will use the word world by default. You can try it using this. So from uh, Angular, we jump into Spring because most of the things in Angular was done like deliver web apps with friends. We look about understanding about the components life cycle. So this was basically most of the things which are being done when a particular Angular project gets initialized. And in Spring, we just looked about how you can start your Spring project, your backend project, and how to create a particular Spring Boot project, how you can add your code, and how you can try. Okay. So these are some of the things we saw in live stream. We will look about how we can create a particular full stack application using Spring as our back and Angular as a front end with our database as MySQL. Okay. So here our live stream gets stopped. Good night. Have a nice day.